So Bandai has put up an official site for Code Vein 2, and there are some interesting story details as well. And I figured, given how confused I was by the whole time travel aspect of the game in the initial trailer, that this was worth covering. Getting into it, they describe both the past and present. In the present-day setting, revenants have been lost. They've transformed into horrors, and, I quote, due to the influence of Luna Rapacious. Rapacious? I probably should have looked that up before I did this, but whatever. Not really sure what that is, but alright. More interestingly, it appears we're jumping 100 years between the past and present. The past setting is where revenants are still present and alive, at least in a greater capacity than they are in the present. I am a little rusty on Code Vein terminology, so I assume the resurgence that caused the collapse of the world is something that happened pre-Code Vein 1. I don't think we ever got that term mentioned, but maybe I'm wrong. Which means the timeline for the past is somewhere around the time of the first game, I would assume. We're also introduced to the girl in the trailer. Her name is Lou Magno. She's a revenant who revived the protagonist after they die on a mission, and she shares her heart with the protagonist, hence the design in the trailer, where they both have their hearts exposed. It seems like they're really theming the game around hearts, and I'll get into more of what I mean by that as we go through more details. We have a new faction, or job, I guess, known as Revenant Hunters, which are probably people in the present that hunt the Revenants down that have transformed into horrors. Because, horrors are bad, I guess. There's also Valentin Voda, who is living in the past, and during this whole thing, the description on the website introduces us to the Voda house and the concept of revenant houses. I guess there's a revenant hierarchy that has formed, I assume, since Code Vein 1 ended. Valentin is researching Forme and requests the help of the protagonist. Forme is a power that revenants have possessed since their existence, I guess, but it seems to be the explanation for the magic system in the game, from what I'm reading here. There is also Bequeathed Forming, which allows the user to summon special weapons that can't actually be made using existing technology. So I guess that's special in some way. In what way or why, I guess we'll find out, when we play the game. But that's really all the info we were given on him. They also revealed a new piece of equipment, which is Jails. I believe some early previews talked about this, but it harnesses the power of a Revenant's heart and allows the usage of vampiric attacks. And I think we got to see one in the trailer. I'll show that here right now. So, in regards to the setting, I think the most interesting aspect is the 100-year difference. The question I have is, will we only be traveling in 100-year intervals, and can we only travel between that 100 years in the past and the 100 years in the present? Or will we have moments where we travel to smaller or larger periods of time? I don't remember if I mentioned this in the previous video, but there was one instance where we did technically time travel in Code Vein 1. It's not really explained, but it's the part where we go back to our own past. Anyways, moving on. I think the lack of mention of the original cast is also interesting, but I feel like that's something they want us to see in the game. Though it is much more likely they exist in the past rather than the present, given that when they left the bubble world in Code Vein, we really don't know what's beyond there. At worst case scenario, we get to see their memories scattered around, but I really hope that isn't the case. I would like to see them in the story and interact with them, at least in some way. There's definitely room for multiple endings. Given this is a time travel story, I wouldn't be surprised. And the original game also had multiple endings, so I assume that's where this is going to go. But I am a little curious if this is going to deviate away from the theory that this takes place in the God Eater universe. I know it's an assumption a lot of us had. A lot of people who are God Eater fans had that assumption, and it was a cool idea to play around with. But it is a little limiting because now you have this timeline when does Code Vein take place? Is it after the time of God Eaters, or is it during the time of God Eaters, or is it before? And it doesn't really make sense for it to be before, so maybe they're gonna, I wouldn't say retcon, because they never explicitly said that it is the same. But I could just be missing and misremembering details from the main story of Code Vein, which is kind of embarrassing because it actually hasn't been that long since I replayed the game. Obviously, this isn't stuff they'd reveal in an early trailer, or even in a trailer at all, but more will be revealed in due time, so we'll see. I'm still pretty skeptical about parts of this game. It seems like the team has really put a lot of thought into what they're going to do with it, but the time travel stuff always has me worried. Time travel as a plot device is usually pretty messy, but if you can only jump between select intervals and between select periods of time, I think it makes it a lot neater, because you don't have to worry about, oh, well, technically then they could have traveled to this time period, or they could see the rippling effects of their actions by traveling forward in time in small periods instead of going 1 to 2. But I don't know. If it's just the 100 years into the past and then back to present day and that's all they can do, I think that works out a lot better. It's a lot less difficult to kind of control because the control is already there. But we'll have to see. That's really a lot of this video. We'll have to see. Also, if you haven't watched Summer Game Fest content, I've heard that the character creator still exists and is somehow more robust than last time. So if you've been concerned about the main character's design in the trailers, don't worry. You can still make your character, I assume, look as dashing as ever. Anyways, that's really all I got for this video. I figured I'd cover this because the little pieces here kind of fill in some of the gaps I had in my original thoughts video. But you can let me know what you think about all this and these new details in the comments below. You can leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and if you want me to cover more Code Vein 2 content and details like this. And you could also subscribe for that, I guess. So, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.